I'd like to call to order the February 18th, 2020 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order and start with a roll call to my right.
Kim Keller.
Don Kurtz.
Jason Cole.
Todd Chernick.
Hodge Patel.
Brenda Hampstead.
Jake Ward.
So we have a full board this evening, which is fantastic. Item number 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we'd please stand and join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving to item 4 on our agenda, I would like to make a motion to amend our agenda to move V20-04 to be the first primary variance item. As I understand, the city is in receipt of a request to withdraw this application. I'd like to move that up for expediency.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passed unanimous. I then make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. That motion also passed unanimous. Item number 5 on our agenda is approval of the January meeting minutes. We had one member who was not here in January on our board, and we had one absence as well. So let's make sure we acknowledge that for the voting. I'd make a motion to approve the January meeting minutes as published.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
In opposition say nay or abstain.
Abstain.
We have one abstention. Jake's not voting because he's abstaining as well. He was not on the board. Moving on to consideration of primary variances, I would make note for the record, the Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determination. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these 4 considerations. A, relief, if granted, would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good in surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. Would staff please present V20-04, 640 Doris Road.
Case number V20-04, 640 Doris Road. Your packet should have the withdrawal letter that was submitted by the attorney. And I believe the second one in your packet, if you don't mind, is the written evaluation and reservation of constitutional and other legal rights that was sent in today. Just want to make sure the board has everything else. Also in your packet is a packet submitted by the neighboring property's attorney stating reasons why the case should not be withdrawn and accepted by the BZA and heard for the variance case. If there's any questions.
Okay, before we before the staff goes through and presents this, this item, is the applicant here or is their representative? Is it your desire to withdraw this evening? It is. Could you please come forward and note that for the record? Just please state your name, address for the record, and your intentions.
Okay. Thank you for your time. My name is Jonathan Beard. I'm with Miles Hansford and Talent. That's at 202 Triple Gap Road, Suite 200 in Cumming, Georgia. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and we wish to withdraw this application. The basis for this, which is included in the letter that was submitted, in short, it was believed based on the business model that this would qualify, the proposed fence would qualify as a run, which would necessitate a variance. Based on the business model and speaking with the client and confirming with staff, this would not qualify as a run. The proposed fence would not, and therefore the variance is not necessary. Again, we're requesting this be withdrawn. At this time, we understand that there's opposition that's been submitted to the city as of today, which we received that packet as well today. So in the alternative, if the withdrawal request is not to be considered, we humbly ask that it be postponed to resolve those issues.
Okay. Our board is here to hear requests from applicants, and hearing that you're wishing to withdraw that request, I think as a matter of expediency and efficiency, we should honor that request of withdrawal without prejudice. So in light of that, I'd make a motion to accept the withdrawal. Ma'am, we are not in public comment. I'd make the motion to accept the withdrawal request by the applicant for V20-04.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Mr. Chairman, and I'll address this. The rules that the county, the city has require only action by the board with respect to the request to withdraw. That may take place with or without a public hearing. The request to withdraw is your motion would be appropriate. If the withdrawal is rejected, the matter may proceed per the normal course.
Thank you for clarifying the procedures. All those in favor of approving the withdrawal request without prejudice, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion to accept your withdrawal was approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
The next item on our agenda is V20-02, 2780 Bethany Bend.
Chair, that would actually be V20-011387 Haygood Road.
Oh, my bad. I jumped over. Sorry.
First.
Thank you.
Case number V20-011387 Haygood Road. The requested variance is to allow a barn to be located 75 feet from the north property line. That is section 64-415, subsection A4A. The site is a 3.475 acre lot located along the west side of Haygood Road. It is zoned AG1 and is located in the rural Milton overlay. The applicant is proposing to construct a barn that will house animals and have it 75 feet from the north property line. Section 64-415 A4A states for a property with a single-family dwelling being the principal use, structures housing livestock which may be located in the front, rear, side yards, provided that the structures may be located at least 100 feet from all property lines. Since the applicant proposes to construct a barn that will encroach within the 100-foot setback, a variance is required. On the Design Review Board courtesy review on February 4th, 2020, the Design Review Board offered the following comments. Make the solid side-facing Haygood Road have windows and have the city architect approve design, and they have a true hardship. The staff response to this was the property that is seeking a variance has a road frontage of 214.69 feet off Haygood Road. The applicant is requesting to construct a barn that will house animals. The ordinance states that any structure that houses animals or livestock must be 100 feet from all property lines. Once you subtract 100 feet from both north and south property lines, there is 14.69 feet left over to construct a barn, and that is in Exhibit A. The structure will be facing a city street, which will be subject to architecture review, and the applicant proposes the barn to have the design that is shown in Exhibit C. The applicant has demonstrated that there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertains to this lot that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship, since the need for this variance is based on construction and locating a barn 75 feet from the north property line and not caused by the applicant. Allowing the location of the barn to be 75 feet from the north property line will not cause detriment to the public good. Safety, health, and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done for the surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of this request.
Cody, can you also, for the record, acknowledge some of the letters that we've received, for just who we received them from and what their intention is?
Correct. We do have a approval letter from Jeff Rutherford and from a Miss Pamela Jackson, and I believe that may be it. Yes. If I'm missing one, please.
And are those the neighbors
Correct.
To either side?
Correct. They're within the 300 feet of the mailing list.
Right, it looks like from their addresses, though they are, we'll confirm if they're here to speak. Are there any questions for staff? I have one point that I wanted to highlight, which is this structure would be, as you noted, facing the city street and therefore subject to architectural review. That was one of the concerns raised by DRB.
That is correct.
The normal process would be architectural review for whatever may or may not be approved.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
So you haven't heard from anybody in terms of opposition at all?
No, sir.
By email? Okay.
Okay, with that, if the applicant's here, if they'd please come forward to present. If you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Jonathan Gray, 110 Cromdale Court, Roswell, Georgia. While he's loading that, the Rutherfords live to the south side, and the Jacksons are to the right, to the north side.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do you want a zip drive? Or?
He has a thumb drive.
In your thumb drive presentation, do you actually have the proposed site plan?
Preliminary, yes.
Okay, and you also have the proposed structure concept, Exhibit C?
It's a similar to rendering.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure that I knew what was coming.
Mr. Gray, is it?
Just scroll down.
Can you just let the board know your relationship to the property?
I own it.
Okay.
My wife and I own it. So are you seeing this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are.
We have screens here, yeah.
All right, so 4 topics. I can spend a few minutes on the summary of where we are with the variance, and I think some of this will be very repetitive for you, so I'll try and go quickly. And then there's a proposed site layout, 2 views of that. One is a plan view and one is a section view. And then I have some a word chart with some which describes the barn, and then I have some reference horse images. And then this image that's showing on the screen now is stolen from Cody. Thank you. So that's where the property is on Haygood Road. So repeating the address, 13870. My wife and I have owned that property since about 2007. It's currently being leased by some people that are using it right now. And then reading through some of these, we're looking to add the barn, roughly 24 feet by 48 foot, 3 to 4 stalls with a little bit of localized hay and tack storage. We have a hobby-level equestrian activities that my daughter, Jacqueline, is engaged with. She'll be moving to that property. And obviously, you guys understand that the requirement for setback for buildings with animals is 100 feet all sides. And so we're looking to, since the property is 212 feet roughly, we're looking to compromise or challenge that setback on the north side. looking to move the barn to set that side to 75 feet, maintaining the 100 feet to the south side. And we will position the barn in a parallel. The 24 feet would be, the 48 foot dimension on the barn would be longitudinal along the long length of the property, and the 24 foot would be side to side. We are working with Richard Owen from Owens Environmental Design to do the site plan, and actually some of this content in the next slides are from him. And for sure, we'll run the barn design through the city architect, Bob. We've already met once, sort of informally. Any questions?
No, this is fantastic. Just for your awareness, and thank you for pulling this together, this hearing is also video broadcast, webcast, live. So having this preparation and whatever's shared is shared electronically on the web now. So
Okay, that's fine. And I understood that. And
this is your candid camera moment.
Not me, man. So here's the plan view. Sorry if the image is a little distorted. It's a scan. You can see Haygood Road on the right side of the image, or as you face it. And then the driveway runs up to the existing home. So partway up that driveway is where we'd position the barn. This is courtesy of Richard. And you can see where we're looking for the 75 foot and maintaining the 100 foot. And the barn is situated with the long side mostly parallel to the property length, the long side of the properties, but angled a little bit so we can see the animals from the barn, from the house. And then, any questions? Am I getting questions emailed in from the web?
No. Yeah, just us.
Jeez. Come on. And then this is a section view. Once again, this is Richard's handiwork. And you can see the house is up to the left, and the vertical sideline is clearly running above the barn, and the barn is situated down low. And then a couple of comments on what we're looking at for the barn design. So if you're equestrian horse people, you'll understand what I'm saying by that first bullet. It's a modified shed row style barn. So in other words, as opposed to a rectangular or square garrison style with a center aisle, this will have an exposed aisle to the elements, and the stalls are all making up one edge of it. Like I said, 24 foot by 48. It's a wood post frame construction. So pole barn, 3 to 4 stalls, and then we'll have some storage in a certain area, certain section of it. Definitely have a roof cupola, and we'll work to match the siding and roof color to match the house. So the siding and roof color will match the house. We are planning to renovate the house, which is another subject. And then Dutch doors on the exterior. The stalls and the street side, the sides facing the street, which is basically the back, and the south corner or the south short side would be closed in. Any questions there? And then this is a couple of example renderings of what we're looking to do. So you can see, now this building is maybe 180 degrees out from what we would end up doing. In other words, if you look on this lower image on the left, that's a tack room storage. That would be to the right. And the stalls would line up as in the image to the left on the top. And then the rear side and the street side would be shown to the right. And the cupola, which is actually functional.
Functional.
That's all I have.
Okay, so I have one question regarding the proposed site plan, which you shared and we have it as well. Oftentimes, we'll make reference to specific locations of structures like this. Are you comfortable that that's the placement that you're looking for this structure?
Yes.
Okay. And we don't have a date on this plan. Oh, yes, we do, sorry, never mind, 12/3/2019. Are there other questions of the applicant?
I was just going to ask one. I mean, it's angled. Is that just for aesthetics, or is that it needs to be that way because of the land, the topography, or?
Primarily aesthetics. So if you, I scroll back to the image with the house. So if you're sitting on the front porch of the house and you look down towards the barn, you'll see you can see through to where the animals are. So in
Oh,
other
I see.
words, and then if you were to, I'll scroll back out to the last page, image to the left, or images to the left or right, you'll actually be able to see into that space and actually do a visual on the horses. It's horses. There's no other animals going in there. So horses. I want to say after we bought the property in 2007, we fenced it fully and ran horses on that for approximately 3 years, maybe. And so we had a smaller, barn at the top of the hill that it no longer exists. So. And this is a much more professional implementation.
Okay, any further questions?
So the existing shed that's shown on the proposed site plan, that'll remain,
That will get renovated.
that'll get renovated?
Yeah, that will not be used. That'll get renovated with no variance request or anything like that.
Okay, and I heard you mention in your presentation that you're looking to have the siding and roof color match the house.
Right.
Once the house is renovated as well.
Yes.
You're comfortable with that being a condition?
Yes.
Should we look to approve this?
Yes.
Okay.
And approved or reviewed by, I guess, Bob or you guys.
The architect, right.
So we have, so the caveat there might be that what are we going to do with the house? We will definitely be putting a new roof on and gutters given the rain. And that roof will be asphalt shingle with maybe the porch being metal. And the barn would have metal roof matching the porch roof.
Are you anticipating tackling both those projects in the same time frame?
We will be at this project for the better part of a year, I'm guessing. So our current people that are living there as tenants are moving out in the end of May. And we'll take this project on through September and beyond. So
Okay. Okay. Any further questions?
Just one more, that the DRB recommended that you have windows. Are you planning on doing that?
windows in the barn.
Uh-huh.
So yes.
The solid facing side to Haygood, to have
I
windows.
think that was the street-facing side. They were looking for that.
Yeah,
So this-
the solid side. They wanted windows in the
So I
solid.
just scrolled to the renderings or the images. So if you look at the top right, top right image, the image on the top to the right, that has stall doors where the stalls would be, and then windows where the tack and office might be. In our case, they'll be opposite, which
Means the tack room, as you're facing it, will be to the right.
Yes, or in this view to the left. So if you were standing with your back on the street and you were looking up the driveway, you would see stalls to the right with those Dutch doors, and then to the left would be the windows within the tack and office room. I mean, and we likely will not want to put stall windows. Horses tend to break everything in sight. They're just really good at it. But we might. We have our current barn in Canton has windows with steel bars in it. We might do something like that. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry if I distracted.
Yeah.
Because are you looking to clarify as well?
Right.
Go ahead.
You got it.
Well, the orientation that you're looking for, is it in the top left? As pictured?
So that building on the top left, you would see that from the house. That view you would see from the house. The difference between what I found as a rendering would be that those two stalls that you see to the right of that image, underneath the overhang, those would be moved to the left, and the enclosed area would be to the right.
So the tack room would be closest to the street,
Yes,
which means as I look at the tack room as pictured on the bottom left, has a window.
yes,
So therefore, you potentially could be looking at a window facing
Yes.
the street side.
yes,
All right, that's.
yes. Sorry.
And the city architect, I'm sure, will address that when it goes through architectural.
And the
review.
windows need to be tall versus,
That's a design element that we're not really
right, Bob?
geared towards. But thanks for the clarification. Does that clarify for you as well? Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant before we move to public comment? So you can have a seat. We're going to move to public comment. After public comment, you'll have a chance to make a closing remark. Mr. Gray?
Thank you.
So at this point, I'll open for public comment in two sections. First, opening for 10 minutes in total for anyone here to speak in favor, and then a similar 10-minute window for anyone to speak in opposition. If you are looking to speak, we would ask you to fill out a public comment card. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application V20-01? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to V20-01? Hearing and seeing no interest in public comment, we do have the two comments from the adjoining neighbors noted in the record for this evening. Mr. Gray, you have an opportunity to make a closing remark before we move to a motion. Thank you in advance. He just said thank you. All right. So with that, make note that the public comment is closed, and I'll open the floor for a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve petition number V20-01, 13870 Haygood Road, to allow a barn to be located 75 feet from the north property line, and then also to have the city architect approve the design and to have it be based upon the proposed site plan dated December 3rd, 2019.
I'll second.
Is that everything?
We have a motion and a second. I'm just trying to capture what you
Okay.
stated. I understand. So one comment I have is I would offer a friendly amendment to add the condition to have the structure, colors, and roof match the main structure, the primary residence,
Okay.
just for uniformity. That's a motion.
A second.
Just looking to have more of a cohesive package
Yes.
would be the intent there.
Yeah.
So if is there any more discussion on that before we move to a vote on that? Or so we're first going to vote on the friendly amendment, which would be to add the condition that the siding and roof color match the primary residence. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And passed unanimous. Now moving back to the main motion, which has three conditions now: the siding and roof color to match the house, the site plan dated 12/3/2019, and subject to city architect review. Is there any discussion on that motion to approve? All those in favor of the motion to approve say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. That motion passed unanimous. Good luck with your project, and please continue to stay in contact with the city staff. Next item on the agenda is V20-02, 2780 Bethany Bend. Staff, please present.
Case number V20-02, 2780 Bethany Bend. The requested variance is to allow the existing parking lot to be 25 feet from an AG1 zone property, section 64-1804, subsection B1. The site is a 7.126 acre lot located along the north side of Bethany Bend. It is zoned AG1 and is located in the rural Milton overlay. The applicant is requesting to keep the location of the existing parking lot 25 feet from an AG1 zone property. Section 64-1804, subsection B1, A states that a parking lot must be located a minimum of 100 feet from any AG1 residential zone property. Since the applicant is requesting to keep the location of the existing parking lot 25 feet from an AG1 zone property, a variance is required. On February 4th, 2020, the Design Review Board offered the following comments. We support the variance. The staff response is the applicant is legalizing the location of the existing parking lot that is adjoining an AG1 zone property. The current layout of the property is shown in Exhibit A. The applicant's organization is selling a portion of the property to the owner at 2770 Bethany Bend, which is west of the subject site. Prior to selling a portion of the subject site, the applicant's property must conform to the current Milton ordinance. Exhibit B shows the layout of the subject site once the selling of the property takes place. The applicant has demonstrated that there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the slot that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship, since the need for this variance is based on allowing the existing parking lot to be located 25 feet from an AG1 zone property and not caused by the applicant. Allowing the location of the existing parking lot to be 25 feet from an AG1 zone property will not cause detriment to the public good, public safety, health, and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done for these surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of this request. He's not here, is he?
Are there any questions for staff? Okay, would the applicant then please come forward to present? Not here. I will, if someone can make a phone call, I'll make a motion that we move V20-02 to the last primary variance on our agenda this evening.
Second.
Is there any discussion? We'll give the applicant perhaps a chance to make this meeting and we can hear their case. All those in favor of moving V20-02 to being the last primary variance we hear this evening under Section 6, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion passed unanimous. So we'll move on to then the next item on our agenda, which is V20-03, 145 Doris Road. Would staff please present?
Variance case V20-03, 145 Doris Road. The requested variance is to allow a guest house to exceed the maximum of 1,500 heated square feet, Section 64-1598, subsection B3, and to allow a guest house to be located in the front yard, Section 64-1598, subsection B5. The site is a 29.61 acre lot located along the east side of Doris Road. It is zoned AG1 and is located in the Rural Milton overlay. The applicant is proposing to demo the existing house that is located in front of the principal house. The existing house was constructed in 1945 per the Fulton County tax records, and the principal building was constructed in 1985 per the Fulton County tax records. The Design Review Board approved the demolition at the November 5th, 2019 meeting. Section 64-1598, subsection B3 states that a guest house cannot exceed 1,500 heated square feet. And Section 64-1598, subsection B5 states that a guest house has to be located in the rear yard. Since the applicant proposes to construct a guest house that will exceed the maximum heated square footage allowance and is located in the front yard, a two-part variance is required. On the February 4th, 2020 Design Review Board meeting, the DRB offered the following comments. Don't have an issue with this variance. Aesthetically going to enhance the property. Okay with the proposed square footage of 2,000 square feet. The staff response is the applicant is proposing to construct the guest house in the same location as the existing house located in Exhibit A. The proposed architecture, Exhibit C and Exhibit D, conforms to the Rural Milton overlay by promoting the Rural Milton character. The existing house is roughly 1,400 square feet today. The new house will be located in the same spot as the existing house. The existing driveway will service the house, and the septic location will be determined by Fulton County Health and Environmental prior to permitting. The applicant has demonstrated that there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the slot that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship, since the need for this variance is based on constructing and locating a guest house in front of the principal house and exceeding the maximum heated square footage of 1,500 heated square feet and not caused by the applicant. Allowing the location and heated square footage of the guest house will not cause detriment to the public good. Public safety, health, and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done for the surrounding property. Staff recommends approval of this request.
Are there any questions for staff?
I have a question on the second bullet there of the staff response. I can understand the hardship related to the being in front of the house as one part, but we have two variances here. The second one has to do with exceeding 1,500 square feet. Are you also saying that in your comment here that there's a hardship to keep it below 1,500 square feet? Or they seem like they're kind of combined here. I didn't know if there was two hardships or just a hardship as to location. Or is there also a hardship related to it can't stay under 1,500 square feet for some reason? If you follow what I'm saying, I'm not sure I'm being clear on that.
You are.
Okay.
Let's hope, maybe we need to hold that question.
Okay,
for the
we
applicant.
can hold it for the applicant, yeah, that's fine.
Can the staff please comment regarding the allowed use of a guest house? In particular, can a guest house be used as a rental home for non-related parties?
So the zoning ordinance for a guest house is, the overall section is section 64-1598. The standards for it is, so 64-1598B1, no more than one guest house structure per lot may be used for occupancy by relatives, guests, or employees that work on the property without payment for rent. The second one is a separate kitchen facility shall be allowed. Heated floor area shall be a minimum of 650 square feet and a maximum of 1,500 heated square feet. Principal building setback shall apply, and the location shall be limited to the rear yard. So I'll let if you want to answer the first one.
Maybe clarify part A, first bullet. You read through
So,
that rather quickly.
Yeah, so no more than one guest house structure per lot may be used for occupancy by relatives, guests, or employees that work on the property without payment for rent.
Pretty much the key to that was the without payment for rent. So relative guests or employees working on the property.
Okay.
But
So
that
limits
doesn't
on
say it can't
time
be a
duration, can you, and does it limit Airbnb usage or anything like that?
That is not listed in this particular regulation. To the extent there are other regulations, those would apply. But looking at that specific example, likely that would be a compensation paid situation, so it wouldn't fall under an appropriate use.
Would not be allowed.
Would not.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying, both of you. Any other questions for staff before Kim?
Are there penalties if you are using it for something other than a guest house? Or is
It would
just
be
something
a
that it
code
states?
enforcement.
Huh?
It would be a code enforcement in terms of violation of the zoning ordinance. I honestly don't deal with the actual penalties, but whatever the standard.
I know we can say you're not supposed to do this, but
Similar to if you're using a residential property for commercial purposes, that would be the same sort of, effectively the same sort of violation.
Okay. Any other questions before we ask the applicant? Would the applicant please come forward? And
I can do USB either way, but
do you have a reduced site plan?
I surely do.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese with Brumbelow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I'm here tonight representing the Brubaker family and their application for a variance to reconstruct the existing cottage in the front of their 29.61 acre tract.
What does he want, document him?
Yeah.
So before you is the existing conditions survey showing the primary residence in the rear of the property and the existing cottage in the front. As Cody stated earlier, the cottage was constructed in the 1940s. It is structurally unsound. We're no longer able to use it as a residence. So the Brubaker family, they're at a point in their life where they need help taking care of the 30-acre horse farm. So the brother is going to move into the newly constructed cottage house. So in that particular case, as you see the location of the existing residence against the NRCS lake in the back, which has floodplain and a flood storage pool, along with typical topography involved with streams and lakes, it's prohibitive to try to construct a residence or a cottage behind the existing residence. The topography is very hard to read, but it's extinct in the back. So I'm sure you're all aware that when the ordinance was created, it was to stop 1 and 2 acre parcels with the primary residence being 60, 70, 80 feet from the street. And it was not desirous to construct a cottage in the front yard or in front of the house. It was not really considered for 30 and 50 and 100 acre estates where the primary residence was 1,000 or further feet back from the road, that it would be, that situation comes in. Of course, that's where the board is for, to find those particular cases that don't have the square peg in the square hole. So that the situation is, and I'm sure, as you know, the citizenry and the mayor and council have tried to incentivize us to keep large tracts of land in whole instead of the Brubakers having to sell since they can't take care of their property and it becomes another 1 acre lot subdivision. So we're trying to find a good compromise that allows the brother and his family to move into a newly constructed cottage house in the same location as the existing cottage there. Our measurements come up with close to 1,500 square feet for the existing one. But in reference to your question earlier, we need 2,000 square feet to construct a habitable structure for the family. We've tried and squeezed, and we're having to modify the proposed house plan to make it work. But going under that just makes it not enough room for what they need to do. It will be a 40 by 50 compact structure that we will be modifying the existing. Just to give you an idea of, so this photo is the existing cottage with the view from Doris Road. That's just the rear. So that gives you an idea of what is there. And we obtained permission from the DRB to remove that structure earlier in the month. And this is the proposal of the structure that will replace it, with the knowledge that this will be customized to fit the square footage or the footprint. This is a little better, less conceptual rendition. So, reason we're here is the ordinance doesn't fit the large estates. We've got an existing carriage house that's no longer habitable. We've got to remove it and replace it with a new structure. So it's going to be in front of the primary residence. So that requires a variance, and we need 2,000 square feet to meet the needs of the Brubaker family, where they can continue to exist on their almost 30-acre parcel and not have to sell it for a development. So that being said, I hope I've addressed everything. I feel like the letter of appeal, we addressed all of the tenants for the hardship and have expressed those. We'll be glad to answer any questions if you so desire. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Reese. The Exhibit D, which is the concept
Yes.
of this White House with the wraparound porch, is that you mentioned it was 40 by 50. So I'm assuming that's not, is that a crawl space slab?
It will.
No basement?
No basement.
And then my related question is, on the site plan, on one of the site plans, it notes conceptually that there would be a breezeway attaching the house to the existing garage.
Existing garage, yes.
Are you expecting to give that garage a facelift along with the house?
Not at present. That was not part of the plan.
Okay. And any reason why you haven't provided the actual footprint of on the site plan? As you know, we oftentimes like to reference site plans.
I think there is one, and it says proposed 40 by 50 guest house.
It does?
That's the second page.
Is it? Okay. Oh, the second page in the
Variant
big
site
bold.
plan?
Large one, yeah.
Do you have that in reduced?
Yes, I do.
Could just if you put it up, that's fine. I just wanted to get it for everyone understood what you're proposing.
So it has proposed guest house with 40 by 50 dimensions.
Hang on, we're looking for some focus here.
Scott, you
There it is.
Scott, you can also zoom in and out if you want.
So that's
Or you
the
can
40
come
by
out,
50.
Bob, if
Yeah,
you want to.
he's coming.
Since it's your equipment and I'm not familiar with
All
it,
right,
so
all right, he's coming. He's coming.
Do you have a date?
you know we're all
on that?
we're all working for the city here.
You can zoom in and out.
Okay.
What, too much? I can read it.
Okay.
Is that drawing dated?
So thank
My
you for
large
clarifying.
one is. Yeah. All of the site plans have dates on them.
They usually like it dated.
Yeah.
I had a question for staff on this. Is there
If you could please close the door.
Sorry, I had just a question for staff. Is the only thing triggering this variance the 500 additional square feet? Otherwise, he would have gotten grandfathered in with on the existing.
It's a two-part variance. One is having a
Right.
house in the
But-
front yard, and the other one is that he's over 15.
But he already has the house in the front yard, so therefore, that wouldn't be he wouldn't need a variance for that if he built on
One
the
of
same.
the little secrets in Milton's ordinance is if you remodel and your remodel is considered more than 50%, it is new construction. New construction diminishes my grandfathering.
Oh, I see.
Yes, otherwise it's
Got
legalizing.
it. Got it. Okay. I was thinking A triggered B.
Semantics.
So
Got it.
thank you for clarifying the site plan, which references the footprint you're looking for and location. The design of the home aesthetically, is that in Exhibit D, the white photo you provided?
Yes. Yes.
And from a condition standpoint, are you comfortable, and the applicant comfortable
The
going forward
fact
with that?
that, understand this is a stock photo, and we're in, Tim Bryan's company is doing a modification. You know, it will be, and of course, this will be under the city architect's purview as far as the final plan. But that is what we want, but it's like 2,480 square feet, and we've got to cut and paste.
Okay. How many bedrooms are we looking at in this?
We're looking at 3 probably on the, the definition of a bedroom is if it has a closet or is adjacent to a bathroom. So it doesn't matter how you use it. It's depending upon the floor plan.
Will it have a basement?
No, ma'am.
And the DRB would have to approve the final drawing, correct or no?
The city architect.
City architect.
City
would have-
architect.
So, okay. So if we put a stipulation on the approval of your,
That has to happen anyhow.
yeah, so,
In order for him to get a building permit, he has to go through architect review.
right.
So we're really determining the location and the size allowance this evening.
Allowing the 2 variances, allowing in front of the primary residence and exceeding 1,500 square feet.
Can you explain Exhibit B? It's
Since-
different.
Since I don't know.
Circular drive on there. Over at towards the guest house, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm not
It does look like it.
seeing it correctly.
I'm, I'm sorry, mine are not numbered.
This looks like the original survey from
Oh,
99.
yeah, that was, we have to have a base drawing of what existed in 1985, but that is not the conditions that are there now. The conditions, yeah, I see, yeah. That's why I included an existing condition survey that's updated. So that's sheet 1 of what Brumbelow Reese stamps are on. And
That's
that's why I
actual
clarified,
existing.
that's actual, if you'll read it, it'll say existing conditions. And sheet D, or the second sheet of ours that is proposed site plan, those are the 2 real life.
So
But
Exhibit A is as is today. Exhibit B is what he started with, which was not current to today.
right, but that is the survey of record from
think it was-
1988 or something along that line.
That's what Exhibit B is, 88? Or whatever.
Sorry, I don't
Somewhere.
have. Okay, yeah, that's the vesting survey.
Yeah, it
which
looks
is
like late 80s.
Which is replaced with the existing condition survey. That's the reason you have an existing condition survey, because it's different than the vesting survey.
Yeah, and maybe you already went over this, so I apologize if it's repetitive. This new guest house, is it going to be facing Doris Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it'll look like a house?
Yes.
Doesn't really look like a guest house?
Yes, that the front, as I presented it, would be what you would see
Driving
from
down the
road.
street?
Is the existing garage going to be on the side and visible from the street, or is it behind the house?
It's behind the house. It's in the location where it's at on the site plan. So it's behind the house. But I mean, you're also in a very steep curve, and it is pasture land. So, there's probably going to be points along that drive but it's an existing condition. It's always been there for many, many years.
Will the covered porch be inside the 40 by 50
No,
footprint that
sir.
you're looking
That's
for?
the heated space. The 40 by 50 is that's the way the ordinance reads, is heated floor space.
Need a little help. I like this project. I think it'd be a nice addition to Milton. I'm having trouble getting past our second bullet for accepting the variance or approving the variance, which has to do with the hardship. And so maybe you can re-explain or explain again the extraordinary and exceptional situation to go beyond the 1,500.
It's just, the problem is trying to fit more than one person in 1,500 square feet. It's, in today's world, it's just not hardly doable. So the last thing we want is to construct something that's not viable and usable for the family to allow them to, I would hope that everyone is looking to preserve 30-acre tracts of land. And this is the way, that we have to do it. When people that have these larger tracts advance in years, it's either sell or get help on taking care of these larger tracts of land, these estate lots and horse farms. So it's just difficult.
That helps. That helps.
Okay.
But from what I understand, you have not specified that you want only up to 2,000 square feet? That's not in the variance request, correct?
Yes, ma'am. It is. That's the max. We've maximized that size as 2,000, that we cannot exceed that. So the variance would allow us to build up to 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
Which would be a 40 by 50, and out there now is like a 48 by 32. We're like 1,480 square feet is what our calculations came up with. So, it's going to be 8 feet longer and, 8 feet deeper than what's out there now.
Any additional questions before we open it for public comment? Okay, if you have a seat, we'll open it for public comment. Do we have any letters of support? And maybe before you leave, does the applicant have any letters from adjoining neighbors?
We've talked with the neighbors and no one was in opposition. So, and when I talked with mayor and council, they were so pro for it. I really didn't feel that it was a need. No one was going to be in opposition that we were told, so
that's fine.
I didn't
Just
feel
curious.
it was necessary in this particular case.
Okay. Does staff have any record of any letter of support or opposition? Okay. So we'll now move to public comment, and as I stated earlier, the floor will be open for 10 minutes for each side, for those to speak in favor first, followed by those in opposition, a total of 10 minutes apiece. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this case in favor? Okay. Do we have anyone here to speak in opposition to this case? There is no public comment for the record. Mr. Reese, you have an opportunity for a closing comment.
I think I've tried to address everything, only if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, thank you.
Are you comfortable, and would your client be comfortable if we made a condition for Exhibit D to be the concept, not the final design, but the concept design?
When you say Exhibit D, is that the proposed site plan?
The White House.
Oh, yes, that will be the concept plan, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. That's the only follow-up I had.
Yeah, my only comment to you is, if there's something specific you want, if you want it to be enforced, the more specific you can be as to what you're looking for. Otherwise, it'll be difficult to enforce. But
Might I suggest that you say it would be, well, it has to be reviewed by the city architect. If you felt it was necessary to state the obvious again and say that your guidance is that the city architect on his review, try to mimic. Is that, Bob, you will be able to look at what we presented and what the final architectural drawings and make sure that we haven't pulled a fast one on you. I'm pretty
That was
sure
my
that-
point earlier, the fact that we didn't have an actual drawing, was just as long as it got approved by you or DRB or whoever it was supposed to get.
It would be.
Before it-
It'd have to come through me, and I would keep it consistent with what he's presenting tonight.
Which is going to happen. We don't have to put a condition on that. It's going to happen regardless.
Either way, I'm going to review it.
Right.
Okay. So with that, I'll make note that the public comment is closed, and I'll open the floor for a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve case number V2-03, 145 Doris Road, to allow guest house to exceed maximum 1,500 square feet, but not more than 2,000, and to allow the guest house to be located in the front yard. Based off a site plan, December 12th, 2019, by Brumbelow Reese.
I second that motion.
Is there any discussion?
Wasn't there something, Todd, you referenced in terms of that drawing right there? Did that need to get in there?
I was comfortable that the city architect could do his review and accomplish what our intent and the applicant's intent is.
Well, can we do the friendly amendment and add
Sure.
that in just to be
If
more
if you want to
specific?
raise a motion for that, and we'll see if it passes.
Okay, so I raise a motion for a friendly amendment to, thanks.
Condition.
I don't have it in front of me. To condition this approval on Exhibit D that has been presented to us this evening and will be approved by the city architect
As a concept design.
as a concept design.
I'll second that for discussion.
Todd.
Brenda, you raised the friendly amendment. Do you have any discussion?
Oh, no.
Okay. Is there any discussion regarding that? All right, so first we're going to vote on the friendly amendment, which is to add a condition that Exhibit D, concept design, be conditioned as guidance for the city architect. All those in favor of approving this condition, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. The friendly amendment passed unanimous. So now we'll move back to the main motion, which was to approve this application, both Part 1 and Part 2 of the variance request, conditioned on the site plan dated December 12th, 2019 by Brumbelow and Reese, and conditioned on the Exhibit D concept design. Is there any discussion?
To be clear, I understand there was a condition that there was a maximum of 2,000 square feet.
I just noted Part 1 and Part 2, but for clarity, Part 1 is to allow a guest house to exceed the maximum of 1,500 square feet up to a maximum of 2,000 square feet heated.
Correct.
Part 2 is to allow a guest house to be located in the front yard as referenced in the site plan, just for clarity. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
In opposition, say nay.
Nay.
I said aye already.
You said aye already. The motion passed unanimous.
Okay, we still got one more.
The next item on our agenda would be V20-02 or? I'm sorry, V20-05. Thank you. 12995 New Providence Road. Would staff please present?
All right, variance case V 20-05, 12995 New Providence Road. The requested variances is to allow the southerly side yard setback to be 12 feet rather than the required 25 feet. Section 64-416, subsection C1, and to allow the minimum setback for housing animals in a fully enclosed structure to be 70 feet from the property line rather than the required 100 feet. Section 64-415, subsection A9. The site is a 1.568 acre lot located along the east side of New Providence Road. It is zoned AG1 and is located in the rural Milton overlay. There was a variance case granted in 1999 that reduced the setback for a structure that housed animals from 100 feet set to 73 feet and allowed for a reduction in the south property line, that is the side yard setback, from 25 feet to 13 feet, Exhibit A. When one of the structures was constructed from the 1999 variance, Exhibit A, it was 6 inches past the approved setbacks. The other structure was constructed 3 feet over the approved setback. The applicant requested a zoning certification letter and discovered that the structures on the property were not built per the variance in 1999. The applicant is wanting to legalize the property from the original variance. Section 64-416C1 states that the minimum side yard setback adjacent to an interior line is 25 feet. Section 64-415A9 states that buildings housing animals are fully enclosed and at least 100 feet from all property lines. Since the applicant is legalizing the property by having a building 73 feet from the property line and to reduce the side yard setback from 25 feet to 13 feet, a 2-part variance is required. On February 4th, 2020, the Design Review Board offered the following comments. We support this variance. Staff response. The applicant is legalizing the property with the existing structures on site. The variance in 1999 was approved. However, there was no as-built surveys to verify the location of said structures. When the structures were constructed from the 1999 variance, Exhibit A, one was 6 inches past the approved setbacks, and the other structure was constructed 3 feet over the approved setbacks. This variance would not offend the intent of the ordinance. The applicant has demonstrated that there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to this lot that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship, since the need for this variance is based on reduction on the side yard setback and setback that houses animals and not caused by the applicant. Allowing the reduction of the side yard setback and the setback for structure that houses animals will not cause detriment to the public good, public safety, health, and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done for the surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of this request.
Are there questions for staff?
I have a question. Has it always been a kennel and daycare since the original variance was approved?
Yes,
So there's no change of use?
that is correct.
Was it horses and now it's dogs? Okay.
And in 1999, when this variance was originally raised, this area was under control of Fulton County.
Correct.
Would they have inspected at that time to see how the structures were actually built according to the variance? I'm curious why it wasn't caught.
They inspected, but till today, even the city of Milton, we don't require an as-built survey. So you go out, you look at the structure, it's hard to see 6 inches that you're off. You can only detect that if you do an as-built survey.
Okay. And any other questions for the applicant? I'm sorry, for the staff?
I don't know if somebody checked this already. Do we have any pros or con letters?
Staff has not received any fors nor against letters from the surrounding property owners.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions for staff, I'd ask the applicant to please come forward and present.
Good evening again. My name is Jonathan Beard. I'm with Miles Hansford and Talent, 202 Triple Gap Road, Cumming, Georgia, 30040. Mr. Chairman, thank you, the board, for the opportunity to speak. I will be relatively brief with this one, as Cody has outlined this particularly well. It's included in your packet, but I also have a copy of the 1999 variance that was approved. Oh.
You can just zoom out for us.
There we go. That's the relevant part there. I'm good with that.
Is that the part you want?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Thank you. So, again, in 1999, in unincorporated Fulton County, these three variances were approved. The structures that were on site, one structure had been there. Both structures were in existence on site when the application in 1999 was submitted. One structure, the structure 73 feet, that was supposed to be 73 feet from the southern boundary, had been there since the 70s. So these structures were on site in 1999 when this variance was approved. Again, the structure housing animals was supposed to be 73 feet, but...
Hang on before you jump there. Something that jumped out at me on that variance is the address is different. 12960 New Providence.
If you look, I think this was part of, let's see, 12960. Now, that may have been an old designation, but it should be the same tax map parcel.
Correct, yeah. Staff found that, and we believe there was probably a deed of some sort that split the properties back up there, but that is the tax ID number matches that variance.
Parcel.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yep. So, sorry for that confusion. Should have pointed that out. So again, the structure housing animals was supposed to be 73 feet from the boundary. Zoom out on this one. So these are the two structures in question. You kind of see in the middle there. There's two arrows. One says one-story frame building. The one furthest to the north was supposed to be 73 feet from the boundary. Based on a 2017 survey, it became apparent that that was not the case. It was, in fact, 70 feet from that boundary. And the structure to the south was supposed to be 13 feet from that boundary, but it's actually 12 and a half feet.
Can you do us a favor as well as those watching on the
Sure.
web?
Point them out?
Pointing those structures out?
Apologies. So this structure here was supposed to be 73 feet from that boundary. It is actually 70 feet from the southern boundary. It's actually in conformance. It's over 74 feet from the northern boundary. So it's supposed to be 73 feet from both sides. So it is compliant on the north portion of the property, but to the south, it's actually 70 feet. And the structure here is supposed to be 13 feet from this boundary based on the 1999 variance, but it's actually 12 and a half feet based on this recent survey. And again, Ms. Cody pointed out, the applicant came for a zoning certification letter, and it was apparent based on this survey that was submitted that the buildings were legal non-conforming. So the sole purpose of this is just to make the subject property conform to the 1999 variance that was approved. There are no new structures, no new uses for the subject property. It's just to make it compliant.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, well, I hear what you're saying. Maybe it's sort of to the staff and you at the same time. If nothing was done, in terms of a variance, what's the effect? I mean, I don't know that Fulton County is going to come in and say you're not in compliance with the original site plan, and I don't know what Milton would say as far as this is a problem. I guess I'm questioning the need for the variance, and to both the staff and you, I guess.
Well, ask that question to staff and council in particular first.
Okay.
And I don't know the background, but from what I've heard in terms of the presentation, to the extent they're seeking a zoning certification in order to do anything going forward or to certify in the future that the property is in compliance with all of the city's ordinances and codes, they would not be able to if the property did not technically meet its full and complete variance, even though it has been in existence, if no one realized it was in existence. And I'm not sure if it was built after the variance or the variance.
It's my understanding that, again, these structures were there well in place before the variance was applied for.
Variance.
And again, I don't know why there wasn't a survey on file with the 1999 variance. But, it's one of those things that...
So why did they need the 1999 variance if the buildings were already there?
Well, I would imagine it was for a business license in order to house these animals. Again, it's been a dog kennel for that period of time anyway.
Okay.
So to house animals and to obtain a business license for that purpose, I would imagine that a variance was required to make it compliant at the time.
So, Don, do you understand the city attorney's response there?
Let me go a bit further, hearing that if the question of whether a property may stay despite its noncompliance is basically legal nonconforming use, is that it had to have been legal at the time it was constructed, and then the rules changed after that. From what I'm hearing, we can't say whether or not it was, because we'd have to go back to when it was originally built to find out what the code said at the time to figure out if it was it was conforming at the time. In order so that we don't have to do that, what we can do is grant, they can ask for, and we could grant a variance and say, whatever the rules were then, we're now saying you can do this structure that has been in existence for however many years. And then it would be a conforming use. They could get a zoning certification letter saying it is in compliance with the current existing code.
What would be the cons to that if it was approved? Like, for example, let's say they were trying to sell this, and maybe a bank wasn't going to fund because it was a non-conforming structure for the new purchaser.
I don't do closings, but I know that you have to, typically a seller will sign an affidavit saying that this property isn't, we're aware of no violations of any code or ordinance. That's a typical thing. It's standard form. It's actually that nobody thinks about, but also for loans.
Yeah. So with this not going through a variance request, it would put a wrinkle in a sales transaction, as an example, or
Even just refinancing it.
refinancing. Would it affect their business license? Has it affected? It could now that we're aware of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. And you haven't presented any other work that you're looking to do that this variance is needed to go forward? Usually we see these when someone's about to do something.
Right. No, again, nothing's changing. It's just to make it compliant. There are no new structures. It is merely to make the subject property compliant.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant before we move to public comment? Unless you have anything else to add?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, if you take a seat, we'll open it for public comment, and then you have a chance to make a closing statement if you care. So as I've said earlier, we are now moving to public comment, and there'll be two sections of public comment. First 10-minute session in total will be for those speaking in favor, if there is any, and then followed by an equal 10-minute total session for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. If you are wishing to speak, you have to fill out a yellow public comment card. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application V20-05? Hearing and seeing none, I'll move to anyone here wishing to speak in opposition. Please come forward. Have you filled out a yellow public comment card?
I did, but I filled it out for 640 Forest Road.
Okay.
Or just say your name and I'll.
That's, if you would announce your name and address for the record at the microphone. Yeah.
Rebecca Collins, 645 Red Maple.
Okay. Hi.
My question is, if you allow this variance, to your points, most of us would not employ an attorney to request a variance on something when we don't have intention for it to cover or protect us or enable us in another way. This particular request also comes on the same evening that we had the request on the Doris Road property, the other dog kennel that she owns. And so my concern would be that this now would be the precedent setting, if you agree to this variance, to then to apply that to 640 Doris Road, which then would put us even closer than we are today with the dog kennels, the noises, the site. It has significant implications for us where we have even less recourse to come before you in the future if you grant this on her other property. It is same city, same business, same reasoning. The statement that that allowing this variance does not do anything to harm the residents is in the eyes of the business, not in the eyes of the residents. And I think that that's only one part of the story, right, for those of us that live around a business like that. So I would ask you to consider that as you're considering this variance.
And you said your address was?
645 Red Maple, which is right behind the Doris Road Kennel.
It's behind the Doris Road, not this one?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
I know it's not easy to speak in opposition. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition before we close the public comment? And before we move to your closing statement, I wanted to have the city attorney address this concern that was raised regarding precedent.
Okay. Precedent is a very difficult thing to show in a variance case. Variances are specifically tied to the application of the code to a specific property, showing the hardships and impact on the surrounding property owners on that particular property for that proposed use or that proposed variance. That's not to say if everything in the particulars were to be exactly the same, the distance, the zoning, the amount of foliage, the elevation change, if all of that were to be the same, there might be an argument that some aspect could, you should treat them equally. In most or many cases, if not all cases, there are particulars with property. Georgia considers real property to be unique, effectively unique under the law, such that you have to look at each individual application as applied to each individual parcel of property and how that applies. So you should be looking at the individual case rather than other cases that have been applied. That being said, you should bear in mind what you have done if there are sufficiently similar, the sufficiently similar nature of the properties with respect to any particular condition.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. We do take concerns of precedent seriously and take guidance from the city attorney on that as well. With that, you have an opportunity for a closing statement.
Very briefly, just as a matter of record, we object to the standing of any neighbor who's not directly adjacent to the subject property to comment on an application. Secondly, again, this is just to bring it into conformance to a variance that was approved over 20 years ago.
Okay, with that, I'll make a note that the public comment is closed, and I would open the floor for a motion and a second. I'll make a motion to approve V20-05 to allow the southerly side yard setback to be 12 feet, to allow the minimum setback for housing animals in a fully enclosed structure to be 70 feet from the property line, as noted in the as-built site plan dated, oh man, you're going to have to help me with this.
January 20.
Cody?
January 2020. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, the office, it is dated March 3rd, 2017.
March 3rd, 2017 by Adam and Lee Land Surveying.
I was just going to clarify. Can I clarify?
We
can't.
We have an
Okay.
open motion. If you,
Let's go ahead and finish the motion and then see if there's a second.
so I'm finished with the motion, which was to
Okay.
approve
Second.
according to the site plan as built.
Second.
Okay, and we have a second. You have a discussion?
I
item?
just had a quick discussion on if we covered this and I missed it, my apologies, but if we make the 12-foot setback on that side, does that mean that future properties can then build 12-foot? In other words, would then she have the right to build another kennel 12-foot off the property line? Because if we're making this, if we're not,
On
if we're
this
only
property?
grandfathering this particular building off, because one building's 12-foot, but if we make the setback 12-foot now for her whole property, she can come in later and build future properties, can she not?
Okay, first of all, this variance only applies to this property.
Right, but he's saying
I'm
it's a
saying-
12-foot
So
contiguous.
second, with your condition,
As built.
conditioning it to that site plan, they cannot do anything that's not shown on that site
Okay,
plan.
that was all, yeah, I got
Right.
it.
So it's conditioned to the as-built plan, which says, that's it.
Got it.
Is there other discussion? I would offer that this is a situation that's been in existence for what appears to be nearly 30 years, where the applicant is looking to come into compliance. There is a business that's being operated here. There could be a multitude of reasons why one would want to be in compliance as a landowner. And I support and agree with the staff's response regarding the conditions as set forth. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of approval with the condition as noted, say aye. Aye. In opposition, say nay. That motion passed unanimous. The next item on our agenda would be to V20-02, 27880 Bethany Bend. Would, it looks like the applicant's here. Would staff please present?
Okay, represent. Variance case number V20-02, 2780 Bethany Bend. The requested variance is to allow the existing parking lot to be 25 feet from an AG1 zone property, section 64-1804, subsection B1. The site is a 7.126 acre lot located along the north side of Bethany Bend. It is zoned AG1 and is located in the rural Milton overlay. The applicant is requesting to keep the location of the existing parking lot 25 feet from an AG1 zone property. Section 64-1804, subsection B1 states that a parking lot must be located a minimum of 100 feet from any AG1 residential zone property. Since the applicant is requesting to keep the location of the existing parking lot 25 feet from an AG1 zone property, a variance is required. On February 4th, 2020, the Design Review Board offered the following comment. We support the variance. Staff response: the applicant is legalizing the location of the existing parking lot that is adjoining an AG1 zone property. The current layout of the property is shown in Exhibit A. The applicant's organization is selling a portion of the property to the owner at 2770 Bethany Bend, which is west of the subject site. Prior to selling a portion of the subject site, the applicant's property must conform to the current Milton ordinance. Exhibit B shows the layout of the subject site once the selling of property takes place. The applicant has demonstrated that there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertain to this lot that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship, since the need for this variance is based on allowing the existing parking lot to be located 25 feet from an AG1 zone property and not caused by the applicant. Allowing the location of the existing parking lot to be 25 feet from an AG1 zone property will not cause detriment to the public good. Public safety, health, and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done for the surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of this request.
Are there any questions for staff? Okay. With that, I'd ask the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Eli Eccles. I'm on the Board of Trustees at the church at 2780 Bethany Bend, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I apologize for being so late. I apologize about that. Yes, we are just here hoping that nothing is changing about our property except selling what I sort of call the finger of land that's on the west side of our neighbor's property. And But we're not changing anything about the parking lot at all, or the buildings. Both buildings already exist. A congregant had owned that property, but he passed away about a year and a half ago. And we sold the property to Mr. Mondi. And then that family sold the property to Mr. Mondi. Then he approached us about buying that little finger of land that's on the west side, this right here. So it's about a half of an acre, a third of an acre. So his property would go from being about 1 acre to about an acre and a half, something thereabouts, and removes from us that sort of awkward situation of having land on the far side of his property. And again, if it weren't for, we believe the property was built according to specs back in '97. Nothing has changed since then. The parking lot has not been changed since '97, and we won't be changing that part of the parking lot anytime soon. And obviously, Mr. Mondi, who owns that neighboring lot, is, I believe, very much in favor of it because it's the plat now that's on the screen where it shows sort of the united property there. That's what he wants to have. So that's, the most impacted neighbor is the one who would be buying that lot. So,
By chance, do you have any correspondence or letter from Mr. Mondi?
I don't know if did he ever email you? No, I don't. But his name is on this plat here that's on display now. He got, paid for that survey as part of the closing, and then it was all held up when we realized the plat needed to go through this process. So,
okay.
I mean, but I don't have a letter from him, no.
Okay, but he's as you said, the most impacted and the most interested party because he's trying to acquire a piece
He currently owns the land that would be the 25 feet from our parking lot. So,
yeah.
And he's the one that wants to add more of our land to it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I think I live in that area, and I thought many of us thought that the pastor lived in that house.
Yeah.
It was all one contiguous piece of property. That's not the case.
No. And so the whole history is when we bought the lot, the church couldn't quite afford the whole parcel. So one of our congregants bought the house that was already on the land, right? And the idea was, the verbal commitment was that he would give it to the church at his passing. Unfortunately, events didn't turn out the way he had intended them, I believe, even. And so the family actually retained that lot. We get along great with Mr. Mondi. There's no problems there at all. But it would have been intended to have been sort of a, whatever you call that, where the pastor lives right next to the church. So.
Okay, are there any questions for the applicant before we move to public comment? All right, if you have a seat, we're open for public comment. You'll have a chance to make a closing statement.
Thank you very much.
So move to public comment. We'll have two sessions, equal 10-minute sessions. First session, anyone to speak in favor. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of case V20-02? And staff, we don't have any letters
No, sir.
regarding this case? Okay. Seeing and hearing no interest in speaking in favor, is there anyone here interested in speaking in opposition to V20-02? Okay. With that, you have an opportunity to make a closing statement. We have an opportunity to ask any closing questions. Do you have anything further?
We would just appreciate this variance in order to allow us to close on this sale, and it betters Mr. Mondi's property, and it certainly doesn't hurt us to be able to slice off that piece of land.
So just to clarify, the closing to sell this finger was held up because of this non-compliant situation?
Yes.
Okay. That's what we were just discussing in an earlier case. Thank you for
Thank you very much.
clarifying and preparing for this evening.
I'm sorry I was late.
That's okay. Are there any questions for the applicant or for the board before we close public comment? I meant for staff, sorry. Okay, with that, I'll make a note the public comment is closed. You can have a seat, and I'll open the floor for a motion and a second.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve V20-02, to allow the existing parking lot to be 25 feet from an AG1 zone property. As is. I don't think there's anything else more to say.
Can you add the condition as built with the survey?
The parking lot is built, okay.
Yeah, the Grant, Shepherd and Associates as-built survey date?
Let me just get the date of that out here. Sorry, this is which?
Cody's going to get you a date.
There should be one in your packet. There should be a larger one.
There's a huge one, yeah.
Pulling out the larger one here. Okay, in accordance with the as-built configuration from Grant, Shepherd and Associates, dated, I'm still looking. Still trying to find a date.
June 7th, 17.
It's on this big one?
It's on the large one.
June 7th, 2017?
2017.
June 7th, 2017.
I'll second that motion. So we have a motion to approve to allow the existing parking lot.
Give us 1 second just to.
Clarify.
I don't think I'll actually see that.
What was the?
It's written in, okay, it's written on the bottom here.
Well, there's two different ones.
Chair, we just reference the one that shows the new combined lot.
Which one do you want to use?
Which one are you using though?
They're not changing
Existing
anything, so the
site.
distances are all the same, right? And they're measuring it from this property line, theirs. That is either way.
This is the recombination plat.
I think you have to use what's in
The
legal.
June 7th.
Use the one that's in existence today,
In
which
existence is
I
what we
believe you
want to.
did. Yeah. I mean, since they're not changing anything, as a practical matter, when someone goes out there, it's not going to measure the same distances, the same. They're not moving anything, so they both show the property where it is. You're conditioning it to where it is, so you should be okay. But let's go with the one that is today's.
As built, June 7th, 2017. Okay. So let me restate this motion, which was seconded, is to approve this variance request to allow the existing parking lot to be 25 feet from an AG1 zone property and conditioned as built with the Grant, Shepherd and Associates plat dated June 7th, 2017.
Great. For the record, who's second? I know Mr. Cole
I
made
did.
the motion. Todd?
I made the motion.
And I
Oh,
seconded.
I'm sorry.
Don made the motion, I seconded.
I even wrote Don.
Is there any discussion on this one? All those in favor of approval with condition, say aye.
Aye.
In opposition, say nay. That motion passed unanimous. Good luck with the closing. Part 2. That completes item 6 on our agenda, which is consideration of primary variances. We'll move then to item 7, which is consideration of appeals and secondary variances.
We have no cases.
Item number 8 is old business.
We have no old business to conduct.
Okay. Item number 9 is new business, which we do have an item there. To vote on our 2020 Board of Zoning Appeals Chair and Vice Chair. Before we do that, I wanted to recognize that first we have a new member, Jake Ward, who's appointed by the mayor. We have some reappointments based on the recent election with Ms. Hampstead and Mr. Kurt and Mr. Patel. So we have a full board for 2020. So I'm very pleased with that. Thanks for working with your council members and or the mayor to get sworn in and contribute in your volunteer capacity. So with that, I'll open the floor for a nomination for chair for the term of 2020.
I'll make a motion to Nominate Todd Chernick to the chairmanship for 2020. He's done a terrific job.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Now you can go ahead and
Sing your praises.
say what you need to say.
Todd's done a terrific job of running our meetings and assisting us in kind of keeping order and making sure that we're hearing cases and making sure that the public also understands the processes that we go through and that we're asking the right questions as well.
I'll second that comment.
Okay. I'll move to a vote on that. And all those in favor of Todd Chernick being nominated for chair for 2020, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. That motion passed unanimous. So then that leaves us with nominations for vice chair for 2020. And do we have a motion?
I nominate Haj Patel to serve as vice chair for 2020.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Well, the one meeting I recall Haj conducting when you were out went very well, and he was very effective in your stead.
It was probably the most efficient meeting we had all year, right?
It was quick.
Haj has been a very good counterpart in helping me stay on track up here. It does get quite hectic, so I appreciate his assistance as well. All those in favor of Haj Patel for vice chair for 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Haj is our vice chair for 2020, unanimously voted in. Item number 10 on our agenda. Ms. Keller?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn for the evening.
I'll second.
We are adjourned.
Was there discussion and a vote?
Oh, you want to have a discussion about all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimous.